clear.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jamie and I'm here to introduce you to Fort Alexander Depot. So unfortunately things have got a bit run down in my layout, and guess I'd like to bring you along the journey as I fix it up and improve and build the things that were originally intended for this layout. Now, as a bit of a basic understanding of this layout, it is an 8-foot by 2-foot layout. So nothing massive, and unfortunately I'm not able to run massive trains. It's mainly just a shunting layout. So I thought we'd start our layout from right to left. As you can see, we have an up and down main line, and adjacent to that is our main shed. Now this shed does contain 4 roads, and both of them and 2 roads merge into one. So on the outside we do have some workmen, and obviously as you can see we do have some British Railways themed signs and all that. Now originally when designed this was meant to be a mainly British layout, but over time it has sort of morphed into a bit of a mishmash of basically American, British and Australian. Now it is mainly going to be inspired by Australian stuff, because that's where I live and it's much easier to get Australian stuff when you live in Australia. However, the main benefit of doing Australian stuff is because it is HO, a lot of things like Walters kits and all that is readily available. Now on my layout, another thing is that I was meant to do was to install the other roof. Now one of the things that has set me back is actually the high cost of actually fitting a roof. It is $80 just for a 1-foot roof. Don't ask me why it costs that much, it just does, and it's not like it's resin or anything like that. Unfortunately, Pico kits are quite expensive, so not only are we going to be fixing up some of the parts that have broken along this layout, is also actually fit lights in, which is a bit hard to see in the light, but we are going to actually fit in some lights into the new roof section and also find a way to make it removable. The reason for that is if a train does derail in the shed, it is going to be very, very hard to actually fix it. So overall, we'll just give you a bit of a So you can see here the route that takes you into the actual sheds. So just into the actual, so where the EA is facing, there is a motorized point, and then a second motorized point, which will take you into the sheds. So the idea is basically as the operator or dispatcher here in this case, you would give the right of way to the EA. So the points would line up and be able to transfer you into the right road. So that's actually pretty fun and pretty cool. And just wanted to showcase, you can probably see just in a far distance is my Chesapeake, sorry, not my Chesapeake in Ohio, my Chessie Systems one and my Conrail SDP 45. I'll definitely put a review out on those soon enough, but overall I think it's actually a pretty fun locomotive. It is the early QSI Proto 2000s, so programming has been a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. But nothing I can't really figure out. So as you can see, this is the back of the signal box I recently broke. You can tell it's broken because you can do this. That's not exactly as designed as featured. So I'll be replacing it with that Pennsylvania Railroad signal box or interlocking station, which I think you've most likely seen on the channel already, and just wanted to show you one last time of what some of the layout looks like. Back to the sheds, one of the other things I have been planning to improve, and I have actually bought, and I'll sort of showcase later in this video, is stairs. So one of the things I remember from when I worked on trains, which was there would be basically a set of stairs to allow crew a bit easier access rather than walking up a ladder. Just because on some of the older MSATs and all that, the ladders are kind of useless, to be fair. So it does make it very hard to actually get up. So the stairs I thought would be an excellent detail just to add it. Which means, well, you aren't going to be able to actually sort of do big maintenance jobs. It does mean it does also prevent a little bit of also derailments from also occurring, just to make sure that things don't sort of, what's the word, fully fall over. Now, one of the other features that it is very hard to see, but you can just see just in the corner, is we have signals. So we do have departing signals for this layout. One of the features is we do have shunt signals. So all the points here are, so the points at the back are motorized. However, this set of points isn't. So the ones where the pencil EA is on, it's not motorized. So it is basically set by hand. However, all the shunt signals and all that are easily able to be controlled by DCC. These were the DCC concept ones. So that will be sort of an interesting one, because one of the other things I have added is a little shunt signal just down here to allow something to come out the wrong running direction onto the track, just to allow them to be able to actually shunt back into the shed. So I've at least given them the right authority. One of the things that you do remember is authorities, to be honest. So things like passing a signal at start and all of the associated rules. So one of the other things is you can sort of see some of the locomotives I've had. Some of them I have reviewed on this channel before yet, and some of them not yet. So one of the locos that we do have just behind that little humpy is a Pennsylvania J1. So as a bit of an introduction to this sort of layout, I have also thought I'll introduce a few locomotives that I do have. So one of them, the one right in front of you, is Pennsylvania J1 6170. It is a Paragon 1, so it's a QSI decoder, and surprisingly it worked quite well. I do have my complaints about QSI, just because things don't necessarily start up very easily. So, for example, for my Pennsylvania one, it does only really start moving on speed step 30, which isn't something I'm a big fan of. Well, it does do a bit of a slow speed crawl. It's nowhere as good as my ESU converted Niagara. Towards the back, as you can sort of see, we do have a Norfolk and Western Y6. I can't remember if it's Y6A or Y6B. I do just remember it's Y6. I am hopefully going to try and get myself an A-class for Christmas, or a GS4. We'll see. I'm tempted by the A-class just because I do have a Scale Trains J-class just on pre-order, and I think that would be actually quite a nice combo, because I have seen a few videos of where they've been sort of running triple-headed with a Y6, an A-class, and a J on freight runs. And I think there was a couple of Ys at the back, so that's going to be quite interesting to sort of see. One of the things you probably noticed on this layout is, well, overhead wiring. well, somewhat overhead wiring. So the original intent was to put in overhead wiring because for a while I was an electric train driver. So I thought one of the most important things in a layout to me at the time was fitting overhead wiring. Now, the issue comes along, as some of you can probably guess, overhead wiring is very, very annoying and very painful to actually put on your tracks. The main reason for this is quite simple. Anything with a pantograph is going to basically rip through your delicate catenary and all that. And it got to the point of where it was very, very annoying to actually try and fix it. So I had a couple of 85 and 86 classes, really not related to the ones in the UK. These are Australian ones. These had the Mitsubishi. Were built by Coming to do coal traffic in the Blue Mountains. So for context, the Blue Mountains is probably the closest thing to Appalachia and the West Virginian coal mines, in that sense of how steep the grades are. So one of the main reasons that New South Wales traffic is basically some of the heaviest in Australia, apart from like the specific Pilbara and all that, is generally just because of the grades. So one of the main lines out of Sydney to your west is the Blue Mountains. And one of the major problems that you do face is a 3% grade. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but a lot of engines do struggle on it. And to the north, which is towards the Hunter Valley, which is famous for its coal mines, is actually very, very heavy coal traffic. And you have Count Bank, which is also, I believe, 3%. So New South Wales has had a massive need for heavy steam engine and very heavy engines. So regarding the platforms here, they are going to be eventually replaced. We have a there's falling in the gap. But yeah, so the plan is actually fully replace all of the buildings here. Unfortunately, they just don't work in the plans that I did. Originally, these were Metcalfe buildings, but I'm planning to ask a guy if he could actually help me design a platform to go with these. Just because in New South Wales we do use platforms like these. As you can tell, these are your regular cardboard constructions. And unfortunately, a few accidents have happened. Where you can sort of see the white marks in the actual platform, the original intent was to have a footbridge, but unfortunately there was a few locomotives I did have, like my 86, and all the things with pantographs that were constantly touching it. So yeah, there was a bit of issues there, and it sort of caused issues in the sense of some of my trains were starting to actually scrape their roofs, just trying to go under it. So unfortunately the footbridge had to go. I am trying to figure out a better system to actually do it. Maybe thinking about a better overpass, or eventually when I do the station, I am tempted to maybe do it a little bit like Penrith Station in New South Wales, where we do have an overpass. So think an overpass that just allows you to have a few shops and all that up there, just because every New South Wales station, especially the big ones, do have a shop. You know, just somewhere you can get a drink, maybe a Dr. Pepper, meat pie, and all that just before you go. But yeah, that's a bit of a plan here. So I am hoping to at least showcase some of the work. You've already sort of seen me build the actual Pennsylvania, so I am hoping to get that weathered and replacing that signal box. So that's all going to be quite exciting, and to install the new platforms and all that, to allow my train crew to be able to safely walk up into their cabs. Just because, yeah, I like to think, just like in my model railway, just like in real life, I do try and think about the actual safety and aspects of all that. So things like signs, and just being practical and all that. Like in real life, even though the kit did come with doors actually shut off the actual sheds, apparently they haven't done it in about 30 years. So I thought, well, realistically, if they won't do it, why would my layout have it? Because thinking about it, why would you shut the doors? There's no point, and for a busy yard like mine, there's no real reason of why there should be. The other thing is, I should mention, is I'll transition it to the next scene. So something I do want to at least focus on here is finishing off the actual fence that stops people from trespassing onto the tracks. I've already started a few, but I am hoping to at least showcase what I have done in the next video. But overall, one of the things I am looking forward to is at least getting this sort of town scene a little bit better developed. Just because, well, realistically, the problem with a lot of model railways I have noticed is there's no sense of scale to a lot of them, because a lot of the times you're just sort of seeing them in-mounted in a lot of country layouts and all that, and there's no real sense of scale, you know? I mean, so in my sort of layout, I try and address that with making it quite dense and all that, because the fun thing about trains is they're big, but they're only big because you compare yourself to them. And in this sort of scenario, we don't really have anything to compare it to. The trains actually seem quite small. So I've got a few things like a post office, a restaurant, a model shop, because you got to have a model shop in your model scene, and just a little cafe. So, while these seem a bit foreign for an American layout, it is quite, I wouldn't say common for an Australian layout, but they are somewhat relatable to things that we would find in New South Wales. They are a little bit similar to the railway cottages that you've seen, and especially in busier places, and some of the older settlement places like Strathfield and all that. So I am hoping to at least take advantage of that, and just over past the E8 there, I am hoping to also include a few more trees just to make it a bit more denser. The plan is to make this quite dense just so we get a sense of scale, a bit of size, and all that. So something else I do actually want to include is maybe a little bit more detail just on the sidelines, just to allow it to make it look a little bit more condensed, a bit tighter, just a bit like similar, if you ever get a chance on Google Maps, just a bit similar to the railway lines at, let's say, Kingswood, between Kingswood and Warrington on the Western Main Line in New South Wales. So it has actually been inspired by a lot of my own experiences, especially in working and living in New South Wales, of a sort of incorporating a few buildings and a few locomotives from around the world. Yeah, one of the things I've been excited to at least do is try and get that shed quite nicely developed. Just overall, just to add a little bit more detail and a bit of life. So pretty excited to get that done, and yeah, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. I thought it would be a sort of a good experience just to sort of showcase what I've actually got, because the major issue is I sort of been talking about trains but no sort of describing of where I actually run them. So it's not a very big layout, as you can see, but where it sort of lacks in the actual scale, I am hoping to at least compensate it with the actual detail. So you can probably guess that's my not RS15. Oh, I can never remember the name of it. It's the one I did with Broadway and replaced it. It's a little bit rattly, so I'm still trying to figure out what to do with it. Overall, I'm probably going to replace it with an ESU decoder just because, well, I like ESU. I've already got the programmer, so that's quite nice. So there's no troubles there. And I'd just like to finish off this video by saying thank you for watching this video, and if you did enjoy the content, just give me a like and a subscribe, and if you all have any other questions, just ask them in the comments. I'm more than happy to help, and it is one of the things I love doing. So yes, thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful day.